What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Dag Life Podcast here at the Dean Aguilar Group in San Diego, where we talk about everything with our guests, real estate related and beyond. Today's very special guest is one of our newer agents of the team over the last year, somebody who's a little bit newer in real estate, but definitely not behind the eight ball, someone who is an up-and-coming star on our team, Mr. Bryan Rios.
Hey, Lewis, thank you for having me on. I'm definitely excited to be here and just excited for.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate you joining. It's obviously something that we've talked about for a little bit, and obviously we spent a lot of time together the last year or so since you've been on the team, kind of getting to know each other, and obviously navigating through your real estate journey so far. And in the first year, kind of paint a picture of what it's like, what it's been like for you in terms of the transition compared to what you were doing prior.
It's been a great transition overall. I can't complain. It has been tough, right? It kicks me in the ass more than other things do. Yeah. So it's been tough. You can go 5-6 months with a client, and then you lose them because not that we did something bad, but just discrepancies, and it's like now your 5-6 months went down the drain for working with that person. So it's definitely a change. It's definitely a challenge, but it's something that over the last year I've learned to adapt to and to really get adjusted to, and something that I feel like I want to do for a long time.
And I think it's important to know, right? Obviously, when it comes to the challenges, we're going to have, there's going to be circumstances that are out of our control. And sometimes there's clients that are very, they're well qualified. They're, gung ho up front. They go a couple of months without getting something, and then they put the brakes on, right? And obviously, we have to look at that as, this is a long term nurture client in terms of this is someone I just wasted time with, right? So I think looking at the future value component of what that client could potentially be is there's a lot in that, and it obviously is a little bit harder to kind of see up front, starting in real estate and kind of being early on in the career. So in terms of like the transition, right, because you've come pretty far in the year-ish that you've been with the team. There's been a lot of ups and downs for the team, a lot of ups and downs for the individuals. In terms of yourself, for kind of just like a high-level overview, what made you want to get into real estate to begin with?
Well, I was at Starbucks, right? I started at Starbucks when I was 17 in high school, and I just worked there, 4 years. And at one point, I was like, "Hey, I'm working too many hours, and my pay's minimal per se." Like I was comfortable with where I was at in life, but I knew moving forward, something needed to change, right? Because if I wanted to have kids or I wanted to do something else, like the time, I didn't have the time to allocate from working a job to doing extracurricular activities that I wanted to do. So it was just something that my mom had done real estate in Mexico a long time ago, and learning from her. Obviously, I was younger, so like just learning from her and watching her enjoy what she did made me want to find a passion. And obviously, I love to help people. So I just thought, what better than to help people make the best financial decision of their life, and hopefully find their forever home.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important to point out, right, when it comes to the servicing part, the hospitality part, right? Obviously, a people first business instead of like sales, which most people depict it as. Obviously, sales are a huge component. Obviously, having the factor of the service coming from that perspective of wanting to help people and wanting obviously such a big financial decision, and obviously in terms of helping people in other realms of your life, which we'll talk about a little bit further down. But in terms of the time that you've been with the team since you got into real estate, other than navigating through the time of like having clients that can kind of be on and off, kind of what that looks like. What has been the biggest challenge for you in the adjustment
I
room?
think holding myself accountable. Um,
Right.
uh, we can you can work per se 10 hours in one day, but get absolutely nothing done, right? So it's really honing down on your schedule and your commitment to yourself, right? Because if you decide to take a day off, that's totally fine, but like now that's another day without a paycheck that
Right.
you went, right? So it's like it's really important to hone down on your schedule and hold yourself accountable, right? Because you can hold me accountable, Dean can hold me accountable, but like that does nothing for you guys, right? Like obviously you guys are helping me out, so like it's what you guys love, but at the end of the day, like you holding me accountable does nothing for you per se, right?
So there's two parts of that, right? And in terms of like somebody like myself, yes and no. The layman's terms, right? For me, fulfillment comes in helping other people. So being an accountability partner helps us kind of see where you're at in terms of levels and where your growth is going. What it doesn't do in terms of what you're saying is that if that accountability does nothing in return to where there is no executing and no applying on your side, then yeah, obviously it's a little bit different. What I will say, and obviously we're always about transparency and accountability and vulnerability here, is there comes a time where you either want it or you don't. And there comes a time in every mentor leadership's kind of life in terms of advocating for certain people and kind of helping people be accountable to their own word is where we can tell and notice very quickly if somebody's going to end up being the person they want to be or not. So we continue to do that because you obviously do still see that potential in you, and obviously you're still working towards that. So from like I think it's interesting what you said. You can work 10 hours in a day and get nothing done, and I think there's a big difference between being busy and being productive, right? Nelson Mandela said it best himself, and so did Denzel Washington in one of his speeches. I'm a big fan of both of them. Right? Is you can run in place and get nowhere, right? So at the same time, sure, you can be sitting here, you can be at the office, you can be engulfed in kind of the conversations and be engulfed in real estate, but get nothing done. So I think the productivity component is obviously an important factor, and that comes down to applying and executing, which you do, right? Obviously, that is something where there is complacency that comes into play. There's a lot of accountability and self-reflection that comes into play with every agent, right? This is not you, it's just kind of in general. So in terms of like understanding things that you wanted to work on yourself to get to where you are now, right? Having closed a couple deals with the direction that you're headed, what has been the most like enlightening thing in terms of getting into real estate?
It's hard. It's never going to be easy. And you just have to push yourself and get out of your comfort zone, right? Because, like I said, you can run in place and get nowhere, right? So it's like you said, how bad do you want it, and where do you want to be, right? I don't want to be working until I'm 80 years old, right? Or running a business till I'm 80, but not day to day. So it's really I'm younger, so it's setting my future self up for success, right? And it's how do I do that, and it's getting out of my comfort zone. It's making the calls, doing the open houses, like stuff that is little things that maybe it's not rewarding that minute, but in the long term, it's going to help out.
Right, and I agree, right? So in terms of the little things, right? The little things are the things that matter the most, especially in a business like real estate, right? The trivial stuff, the tedious stuff, the monotonous stuff, it's really comes down to discipline of doing the boring things until they kind of obviously work out, right? So and I think that comes with discipline and everything, right? Obviously I'm big into fitness. Doing the same old routines, nonstop left, right, eating the same food, is it fun? No. Do I enjoy the process? Yes, and the journey, and the results show, right? So it's one of those things where the more you do the consistent disciplined work, the results are going to end up rewarding you and showing, and it makes you want to do it even more, right? So in terms of obviously with that path in that direction, you mentioned that you're a little bit younger. How old are you again?
22.
22-year-old in real estate in San Diego, and you've seen a lot of shit already, right? Obviously, being a part of a pretty diverse group here at DAG, which we'll get into shortly. You had a pretty big life event recently, and something that's coming up in the fall. Talk to us a little bit about that. What happened with Bryan?
So personally, got engaged last October, November. Let's put the right date in there. So and I'm getting married next November, November 22nd to be exact. So a little under 6 months from now. And it's been very exciting, and it's been very stressful. Right. So I've been with my fiance Ariana now for almost 4 years, and it's been the best thing that's happened to me. Um, and it's been difficult, right? Because navigating a relationship that changed, the last year, right, to a business that was new to me was difficult, right? And it was a lot of props to her to, staying there by my side. Um, um, and it was a lot of props here coming to DAG, and days I would get my ass kicked, and I would come and you would smile or Dean would smile, and it would just be like, shit, this is what it's about, um, so it's exciting. Obviously it's a kickstart to my life. That's the first step, um, that a big step in my life, so it's exciting.
And I'm sorry for you guys, right? Obviously, we've met her, we love her, and obviously we love you, and obviously appreciate the vulnerability, right? Obviously, in terms of life changing events, we all have our life changing events. I had mine almost 2 years ago. I was engaged, 4.5 year relationship, fully planned wedding, and it kind of ended almost overnight, seemingly, right? So life happens, life changes, and for you, these are all good changes and positive changes. And although it's can be stressful and even nauseating sometimes, and kind of that rude awakening of like, okay, there's a lot more that I need to do than what I'm already doing. Is It's enlightening and empowering to kind of see the direction that you can be in, right? And with surrounding yourself with the right people, it helps tee you up for success and set you up to where you can grab life by the fucking balls and make it your own, or you can go down a different path, right? It's a matter of choosing what direction you want to go, and you're making all the right choices. So I'm proud of you for that. So, one thing you mentioned is being here at DAG, and one thing we talk about and pride ourselves on at DAG is the DAG Life culture, right? We're on DAG Life podcast, so we obviously got to talk about the culture, right? We're definitely an unorthodox group. I think at the very least, it's the minimalist way you can put it, but in the best way possible. And I think in terms of people talk all the time about we got culture, we're all about family. Everyone says it. Not many people can kind of portray it, right? Everyone's got their own perspective. I'm biased. DAG till I die, right? Been here since day one. In terms of you navigating to DAG and finding the Denagler group, tell me a little bit about what drew you here, where you felt like you were home, and where you needed to be here.
Well, obviously, like I said, I was 21. 2 months out of 21, and I had just got my license. And I was like, all hyped. I was like, this is gonna be super easy. This is, I'm just gonna hop in and do everything. So I actually found DAG on Indeed. And we had a conversation, maybe 30-minute conversation. And I still remember, you were like, it's all about the culture. We're gonna have our happy hour. You guys were having a happy hour that night. I don't remember what happy hour because I wasn't there. Um, and it felt right. Obviously, I've grown up around sports. I played soccer, played baseball, played football, and there was always the right culture for me there. And when it wasn't the right culture, I removed myself and went to find something else. Um, so then came in, sat down with Gail. Um, you know, really never interviewed with anybody else. Right? I was just like, hey, what's the worst that can happen? Right? I end up loving it and I stay here forever, or I hate it and I hop off the ship in 6 months. And I came in, and everybody kind of just embraced me like per se the little brother, right? Not like the little brother doesn't know what to do, but like, hey, let me take you under your wing and let me show you what it's all about. And I think at least where I'm at in my business and my career, the mentorship, the role plays, the trainings is like where I need to be and where I always felt I was included, right? Never felt like I was left out because I was younger. Never felt out I was left out because I was newer. Never felt left out because I didn't know what I was doing, which I still don't. But that's not a conversation for right now. So it's just what felt right and what still every morning it still feels right. Every training still feels right, right? Regardless of now I'm learning extra stuff that I haven't learned and some people come to me for questions and I don't know why they would do that, but it's like
It's because you've been here long enough to know how to answer some of them.
yeah, so it feels right. I come in every day. I'm on this podcast. I just feel normal. I don't feel nervous. I don't feel scared. I don't feel sad. I just feel like I'm at the right place where I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want for the most part and just have a great time for the most part.
For the most part, dude, I love you for that, and I could resonate, right? Especially in terms of feeling at home and being the director of the growth of the team, right? Obviously, over the last couple of years, for me, and I tell people all the time, where I take pride in is the retention rate of our team, right? We rarely have turnover, and when we do have turnover, it's people that are just looking for a different vibe. We're not the team that we don't kick people off the team quick. People don't really quit our team very quickly. It's for the most part, people that have left our team over the last year or so is people that one leave the industry as a whole. Two, they're just looking for a different vibe that's just not us, and that's okay because we're not everyone's cup of tea. We're more so people shot at tequila. I think we can all agree. And, there's people that want to be on a smaller team, and being on a team of over 100 agents in San Diego, there's a lot that comes with that. But I think the important thing that you highlighted is never feeling alone or left out, especially because you're younger and newer to the game, right? So, can resonate with you there. Looking ahead at life, right? Obviously excited for getting married in the fall. What are some things that you're looking forward to in the next, call it 2 to 3 years of your real estate career? Like, paint me the picture of what Bryan sees in terms of real estate and where it's taking you.
Um, I think just taking off, right? I think, first 2 or 3 years can be tough, especially like when you're younger and you don't have those friends or family that are ready to buy a home, or I have friends now that are finally starting to like graduate college and get their degrees, and like so I know down the line, if it's obviously a nurture friendship that like will turn into something. So it's really just becoming more mature in the industry, becoming more versed in the industry, and I feel like with all the changes coming, we're all going to kind of start at the same place again, right? It's kind of everybody's going to have to adapt to the new changes. So I'm really looking forward to just trying to perfect that new change as possible, and just taking it from there. Hey, step by step, little by little, to the next 2 or 3 years, finally be in a place where I feel stable. I'm not worried about where the next paycheck's going to come from. Worried about you know, no, I've never been worried about like a roof under my head, which I'm very blessed to. But just where I can provide for my fiance, um, where she can be happy. We can, do the vacations, do the dinners, and not be worried about like, hey, do we really have the money to afford this?
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think we can all again resonate with that because real estate you can go a couple months at a time without a check, and I think at the end of the day it comes down to what are you willing to do now to make sure that doesn't happen down the road, and what do output's going to come from our input and tenfold it, right? So obviously, at the end of the day, it's a matter of what are you willing to do in terms of execution and applying to really kind of make it work for your life, because it is an unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty, right? There are a lot of changes coming, so there's going to be multiple things that happen within the industry as a whole, and there's going to be the strong that survive and the ones that don't, right? Just like we saw during COVID. Obviously, you didn't get into real estate during COVID. No, I actually did for a long time career, not just one of those like quick stops, right? Plenty of people jumped into real estate during COVID because it was easy, and now most of them are gone, right? So over the next couple of years, we'll kind of see another little bit of a transition based on the changes that are coming to the industry. In terms of something that you and your fiance, aka future wife in 5 months, things that you guys have planned, whether it's major trips coming up, kind of what you guys have in line in terms of real estate investments. What does that look like for you guys on the personal front?
Well, obviously we have this wedding that we have to pay for. Shout out to Mama Rios for helping out. Um, and we obviously are going to do our honeymoon. We're going to try and get away as fast as possible, because if we don't get away, we're not going to do it.
Where are you guys going to try to go?
We're still deciding. Probably Mexico, or somewhere beachy,
Yep.
where I can just sit and do nothing for a week. It's obviously we want to get into our first home together. It's a conversation we were having earlier of like, what does that look like? How do we get there? Um, getting into at least a starter home for us. There's no kids yet, at least that I know of. So it's not a rush to get into somewhere big, huge, like the forever home, but we definitely want to get into something that's ours, and that down the road it'll just become investment. And we want to travel, right? I think um, we haven't we've done our trips together, and I think that's showing us a lot about each other in the 4 years we've been together. So, and we really enjoy it. We really have the same mentality when it comes to like vacations of like, hey, we're going to do one activity a day, and then we're going to take the rest of the day to just chill. So it's definitely getting out there, exploring the world, and just setting our future selves up for success and like for financial freedom.
Love that. That's amazing, dude. I'm happy to hear that. And obviously, at a young age, it's hard to kind of have that mindset. So you're definitely ahead of most 22-year-olds, which is something you guys should be proud of. I know there's some other extracurricular stuff that you do outside of real estate within the community. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I coach soccer, coach a lot of soccer.
Okay.
Sometimes too much soccer. I've been involved in soccer since I was like 5 years old. I started playing in Mexico on the street, which is funny. It's where I learned my Spanish. Just playing in the street. I knew nothing, and I just go out there and play outside my grandpa's house. And still to this day, I go back, and that has created like friendships, like everlasting friendships. So I've been involved in soccer, and then um, just when I got out of high school, I wanted to take a break from playing and focus on other things. So I got into coaching, right? And I've coached now for 3 or 4 seasons. I coach 12 to 14 year olds. So it's a beautiful age.
A lot of fun little hooligans running around.
Yeah, a little puberty teenagers, and I really enjoy it. Right, I that's how I feel like I'm giving back to the community of like helping these kids set them up for whatever they want to do in life, whether it be play soccer. But my main focus is helping them become like young men. Um, and I referee soccer, so I referee from like age 6 to like 19-year olds. Um, and it helps me stay involved, and it's what keeps the stress of real estate off my back for the most part of going
Helps you have fun too.
yeah, going out to the field and being there for 2 to 3 hours and just enjoying you know something that I enjoy and that's easy for me.
And also making an impact from like a fulfillment perspective.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously I just got a high school job um, in November in a like lower community. So it's a lot of kids that for soccer that's their whole life, right? And it's like how do I help them achieve what they want to achieve, rather whether it be just graduating high school because they might be the first in their family to graduate, or whether it be playing in college or playing overseas or something that will help them stay out of trouble and help them in the future.
Bro, I love that, and I think that's we talk a lot about social media, and obviously you're going to have some content to kind of post about. And I think we can all do a better job at showcasing the impact of the people that we have around us, and I think that's something that's a superpower that you have that you need to use to kind of showcase what you do, what you're trying to do, why you do it, and the fulfilling component. Just because it will have an impact on a lot of people, so it's definitely something to one be proud of, right? Obviously, making an impact on younger men trying to become young men themselves and kind of help them lead a better life in a better direction. So that's definitely something that's important to highlight, um, because obviously that you were in those shoes one day as well, right? So obviously showcasing your talent in terms of the impact you can make on other people, because it is important. I think everyone does live a life of a purpose, and our job is to give that gift away, right? The purpose that we have in life is finding that gift, and then our job is to give it away and help other people. And you're doing a great job in the community in terms of doing that, right? And that's something that's going to transpire into tandeming with real estate in terms of that as well. So definitely something for you on the horizons in that. So proud of you in that regard.
Obviously, if I could coach soccer and for a life for like a living, like I would, but I can't. So obviously, it helps me relieve the stress and do something that I enjoy, and then come back to real estate and keep helping people, right? Because I feel like that's at the end of the day, that's what I'm doing. I'm helping families, right? Or I'm helping children, or so it's at the end of the day, I fulfill the same purpose, like you said.
Yeah, it's multifaceted kind of fulfillment in terms of that purpose, right? Looking because just because you typically what I typically ask people is if you can give your 18-year-old self some advice. That was just 4 years ago. We got to go back a little bit further. Let's talk about Brian at 15, 16 years old, right? Think back where you were. Probably feels like just yesterday, but 5, 6 years ago, talking to 15, 16-year-old Brian, you can give him any bit of advice if he was here right now. What would you tell him?
I think I would have try to stay in school, right? I was a first generation college student. Um, so I went to San Marcos for about a year. And then, the pandemic started, so Zoom and all that. So I wasn't able to focus for a long time, which probably, I have the attention span of a squirrel. So, I kind of just dropped out and didn't really talk to anybody about it, didn't, seek any advice. It was just kind of like, hey, I'm going to do this because this is what I think is right. And obviously, I was 18, so I had no idea what I was doing. But I think that would have set me up for success. Whether hopefully I still would have found myself to real estate, but even just something else, right? Just even having that degree just gives you a little bit of an advantage, right?
Yeah, and I think in the day and age that we're in, especially in 2024, with the way kind of I won't say the way life works, but the way opportunities work, there is some truth to that. But I always like to play devil's advocate, and one part to kind of think of, and the only reason I look at this perspective is because there's ways to where you can look at your past, and use it as a tool to guide you. Right? It's making better decisions down the road, and you made the decision that you felt was best for yourself at the time that you made it, and that's all we can ever do. Right? A lot of people like to look back and if I only knew this then, sure, easily. If I knew now what I knew, 2, 3 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, 8, 10 years ago, Could my life be different? Yeah, 100%. But would I be a different person? Yes. And that might not be a better version of who I am today. So the way I like to look at mistakes, right, is what lessons were learned from it, right? What'd you take from it? Because if we can go back and erase the mistakes that we've made, how much of us would be left today? So it's easy to look at it from that regard, but you made the decisions you made at the time you made them because of the knowledge and wisdom that you had. And you are here today because of those decisions that you've made, right? And who's to say that something worse couldn't have happened or another decision couldn't have happened if you did stay in school? So yeah, it's easy to look back and kind of dwell. What I would say, being now 33 years old, is there's no reason to dwell because it's just going to haunt you. So obviously taking the lessons that you learn from that kind of experience in the decision making process to kind of lead a different direction that you want to go. It's easy to look back and say if I had only done this, but at the end of the day, I think regret is poison and dwelling is definitely the devil. So in terms of kind of where you are today, it's you don't know what could have happened if you stayed in school. You could be across the world right now. You could be in a different state, different country, doing something that you hate with that degree that costs you $50,000. I went to college. I graduated, first one in my family, so I get it. Um, but I'm also still paying off student loans, and has it given me opportunities and advantage in some way, shape, or form? But there are plenty of people that didn't go to college that are way more successful and better off than I am. So, two sides of every story, two sides of the fence. So, I think it's something for you to still be proud of for where you are today.
And I don't think I regret it. Obviously, I've ended up where I want to be and where I hope to be for at least 50 more years. So it's nothing that I can be like, damn, I dropped out of college, or I should have stayed in. It's just a different. It would have been a different avenue had I gone that way.
For sure.
So I would have liked to see how it played out.
I hear you. That makes sense, right? And you mentioned you feel like you're right where you need to be at least for the next 50 years, whether that's your career, your lifestyle, your future wife, and future family, and where you're living at. One thing that I do want to bring up because we talk about it so often, and it's such an important component to not only who we are as people, but also who we are as a team from top down, from Dean and Aphrodite, in terms of legacy. But we talk about legacy all the time. It's an important component of who we are as individuals. So when you look 50, 60 years down the road with you and Ariana and you guys' future kids, what is that legacy that Bryan Rios wants to be remembered for? Talk to me about that.
I just think I want to set obviously me and Ariana up for success and for financial freedom, be able to enjoy whatever we want to enjoy, have the kids enjoy what they want to enjoy. So it's just setting up a successful future. Obviously, grew up with a single mom, so kind of want to help her out because of all she did for me. There we go, crying again, Brian.
It's all good, dude.
Um,
It's vulnerability, man. It's
yeah.
authenticity at its finest.
So my mom gave everything to me, and she still does, right? As we don't even live together.
Shout out to Mama Rios.
Yeah, she's my second best friend. So it's helping her out. She did everything for me. Moved here from Mexico. So her legacy is like I want her to just enjoy her life, right? Um, and then give it all to my family, right? Give it all to, you know, my future wife, my kids. Just be able to live our lives, right, with no regrets, with no fears, with no, yeah, just be able to enjoy our lives, right? And if my kids want to go to college, be able to pay for their college. If they want to go to trade school, go to trade school. If they want to join real estate, even better, right? So it's just it's doing the little things now when there's not as much financial burden, to in 50 years just be able to enjoy life and just hey, here's a house that you can live in that you don't have to worry about. Here's a car that you don't have to worry about. So in the soccer thing, right, it's how do I help these kids. I don't care if they don't remember me, right? But how do I set them up for success? You know, how do I, hopefully, like I said, hopefully all of them graduate high school, right? And if that's the best thing they do in life, that when I look on back in 40 years will be probably one of the best things that I did.
I love that, man. I appreciate you and I love you for that, for being vulnerable and very authentic. So it's not easy to do. It's a very honest and transparent feeling, and that authenticity kind of rings true to who you are as a person. And there's a couple things to kind of highlight, and one thing that I live by, especially through my social media and kind of the impact that I try to make, is something that I live by is that if I'm positively impacting at least one human being life per day, I'm doing my job as a human being. And I think that I take that in stride with kind of something that I try to live by. And so much so to where over the last several years, like I've tried to let go of the things that make me angry very easily, because life is so short and there's so many other things that are better about life than things that are bad. And in terms of obviously the impact and trying to have that easy life down the road is another quote that's super that rings true to me, that I think a lot more people need to understand, is that if you want an easy life, you need to do things that are hard. And if you do the things that are easy, you're going to have a hard life. And I don't think enough people kind of live by that. And I don't think enough people understand that, because most people want the easy way out. Truth is, there is no easy way out. And to have a fulfilling life is to do the things that are hard right now so you can live an easy life. And you're on the path, you're on the direction, you're on the journey. Just keep going and keep pushing forward.
And I think another thing about legacy is still giving back to the community, even if I'm not here, right? Like how do I set something up that's going to help people in generations and generations, right? I was part of Reality Changers, who helped the first generation kids get to college, right? And we did a little Christmas drive for them here at DAG, which I still appreciate a lot. And that helped me when I was 14, 15, those teenage years where I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, right? And my mom really had no idea what we were doing, because she had never been to college here in the United States. And I didn't have that role model per se that could help me get there, so they helped me through that. um, and still to this day, I still like to give back to them, because what they provided for me um, is something out of this world. So it's like, whether it's a community center that helps kids do their homework, or a new soccer field for kids to play. So it's just creating something that will help people, not just my family, but kids and families, beyond myself.
I love that, dude. Proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. I appreciate you for hanging out. Obviously, can't wait to have you back on the show again. It's kind of been enlightening and emotional talking through a lot of your life and kind of what you're looking to do, and I'm happy for you, and I'm proud of you, and I'm excited to see you flourish. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you guys for watching another episode of Dag Life Podcast. I'll see you next time.